Today we have with us leaders from both the Minnesota House, DFL, and Republican caucuses to give us their insights and thoughts on what we can expect from the legislature this upcoming session. And we are very happy to have with us here today, first of all, Representative Tony Sertich has been Majority Leader of the Minnesota State House of Representatives since 2006. Prior to that, he served as the Minority Whip in the House. Representative Sertich was elected in 2000 and chaired the DFL caucus from 2001 to 2002. He makes his home in Chisholm and has a Bachelor of Arts in Theater Arts and Political Science from Hamline University. Representative, thank you very much. We also have with us this morning Representative Kurt Zellers, a hometown boy, I guess you could say, here for Twin West. Currently Minority Leader in the Minnesota State House of Representatives, and from 2003 to 2006, Zellers was the Assistant Majority Leader in the House. He was elected to the House when he won a special election in February of 2003. Formerly, he was Communications Director for U.S. Senator Rod Grams. He makes his home in Maple Grove and has a Bachelor of Science in Political Science from the University of North Dakota. Welcome, Representative Zellers. Thank you.
This is Mike good, so you can have a good time.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead. I have some prepared questions, and then we are going to have time here to open it up for questions. So start thinking about what questions you might want to ask our two distinguished guests. So we're going to start with kind of an easy one, just to kind of get the blood flowing, wake up.
I've heard that before.
So let's see. Let's start, Representative Sertich, with you. You can answer this one first. So what is your caucus priorities for the 2010 legislative session? I told you it was easy.
That is very easy, actually. And I first want to thank you and thank you all for the invitation to come back with you today. Our priorities are pretty bread and butter. Obviously, what we can do to help improve the climate for business and the economy. The first bill that we're going to try to pass and get going is a infrastructure jobs bill, the one that where the question and answer from the last go on for you all. And for the other legislators who talked about cooperation and getting along, I noticed that the percentages of you trying to decide what should be in a capital investment bonding bill, none of the answers got 50% in this room. So you can imagine once you go to St. Paul and try to get more than 50% to agree, that's pretty difficult, and then get a governor and a legislature to agree. But we want to see a significant jobs bill that invests in infrastructure, roads and bridges, higher education, and those projects that are ready to go. And not just ready to go when the snow melts, ready to go tomorrow where we can put a paintbrush or some HVAC or any of that stuff to work. So that's one of our first goals. Our second goal is one that was also touched on before, the general assistance medical care, finding a solution for that. Legislators from both sides of the aisle have been working with the governor to make sure that works, because healthcare in general is just a shell game at the end of the day. We can say we're going to cut it out of government, but then it goes on your premiums if folks are uninsured, just the way our system works. So that's the second goal of this legislative session. And then the third goal is a larger package to help our economy. And that could do anything from angel investment tax credits to research and development credits, those things we can do to help especially our small businesses, our Minnesota businesses, grow and expand in this difficult time.
Thank you. Representative Zellers.
Thank you, and good morning, and thanks, Tony, too, for coming. Part of the agreement is Tony will come here and have a Q&A with our group, and I'm going to go to one of the trade union groups and do the same. It's only fair treatment for one of the labor union.
Up on the range, too.
Yes, yeah, yes. Exactly. But, and many of you have probably heard me many times, our session priorities are going to be what they've been for quite some time, and I'm kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to this at the legislature. I focus on jobs and the economy, and for us it's not just jobs, because anyone, and this is from my pastor said, he goes, anyone can talk about going to church, but it's a wholly different thing to sing in the choir and give in the plate. And so when we're talking about jobs, we've been going out around the state, meeting with fellow chamber members, non-chamber members. Yes, I apologize. We have met with folks who aren't in the chamber and asking them what it is that government can do. It's no secret we're out of money. We don't have a lot of extra cash laying around at the Capitol. So what is it that we can do to get out of your way? There's a lot of things that government does supposedly for you, but in a lot of cases, in your business, it does something to you. It takes time away from what your focus is. Whether it's a service industry and you're trying to provide a service to customers, whether you're in manufacturing, you're producing a product that they then take and reproduce or send on to their customers. A lot of what the government's doing is taking time out of your day of being productive. So it's not just that part, it's increased economic opportunity. You know, here in Minnesota, our unemployment rate's a little bit lower than the national average, but we don't want to just focus on getting the 8% or 8.5% back to work. We also want to make sure that 92% are not only safe in their job, but are looking to expand. And in a down economy, if you're going to do a lot of improvements, you should be bullish about this and go out and say, we're going to add to our economy in tough economic times. So we're going to look at those economic opportunities. We're going to make ourselves more competitive, whether it's the permitting process, whether it's the requirements that you have through the MPCA, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, whether it's requirements for construction. There's a story floating around about a Minnesota business that was going to build here, and the permitting process took 13 months. And the time that it took them to just start the permit, get it approved, get through the commenting period, and then on to actual moving ground, they moved to a neighboring state, built the building, were up in full production before we would even give them the permit. That's something we have to change. That's the economic opportunity, increasing economic opportunity. And the last thing is to bring some certainty to the business climate. A lot of what we do at the Capitol, a lot of us don't understand, or some of our colleagues don't understand that when you introduce a bill, it has consequences in the business world. You have a 1-year plan, you have a 5- and a 10-year plan. If we introduce a bill to raise your property taxes or to raise your income taxes if you're a small business owner, that has implications for you. If you think there's a tax bill coming, you may or may not hire that additional employee. You may not buy a new piece of equipment. So what we'd like to do, and it's this pandemic of uncertainty that's out there, and a lot of business owners from across the state, and you hear it across the country, have said, we're not sure what the government's going to do, so we're going to hold tight. And that's where there's credit available. I've talked to some of our Twin West members in the commercial real estate business, banking and lending, so there's money out there, but they're waiting to see what happens with the health care bill, or they're waiting to see what happens with cap and trade. So our goal is to bring some of that certainty down there, so some of these bills that don't come out of the legislature, or make sure that they aren't going to be moved forward, so that you don't have to worry about what it's going to add to your bottom line.
So let's talk a little more specifically. So great to hear both of you talk about the jobs and the economy. I think obviously that is crucial to the success of this country. So when you talk about a jobs bill, Representative Sertich, what would be in that? What sort of things are you looking at for the jobs and the economy to get things spurring?
Well, as I said before, angel investment tax credit, research and development credit are really high on the list, and that shares bipartisan support. I think Representative Zellers even supports that. The governor supports that. There's always a trick with tax credits, though, and tax cuts, is that it's already put into our budgets, so we have to find and cut spending in a different area. And when you're already talking about a $1.2 billion deficit this year, and anywhere between a $5 and $8 billion deficit, 20% of our budget for our next budget cycle, you have to cut that and then some. And so that's the difficulty. I mean, I appreciate the question that we have to solve a $1.2 billion deficit this year, and it's within our state constitution. We're unlike the federal government. We can't print money. We can't deficit spend. So it will happen one way or another, either by unallotments or by hopefully a solution that's agreed upon by everybody. But the $1.2 billion deficit is peanuts in compared to the $5 to $8 billion deficit that we're going to be going through 2 years from now. So there are certain things we can do, and I agree with Kurt. You know, we don't have, though, a department of red tape, or I mean, if we did, it'd be easy to eliminate it, and that'd be a very efficient way to get rid of some of these problems for businesses. And I run a small business up in northern Minnesota myself.